All righty, so we're going to jump right into it. So you all may know this young lady. Her name is Miss Nicole Edmonds. Nicole is a new note investor, but she is a note investor and she is launching her business. So 2023 is going to be outstanding for her because she has gone, I don't know, full steam ahead to go out and get this note investing business off the ground. And so she has trained and trained over the past couple of months. And this young lady actually put in her first offer for her first note. And even though it didn't come through, the due diligence she did was absolutely amazing. And I just wanted her to share what she did, I want to start from the beginning though, of scrubbing the tape and receiving the tape, scrubbing the tape, and what you went through, how you came to the conclusion that this is something you wanted to invest in, and then the deep dive into the due diligence that you did in order to come to the conclusion to spend some money on this note. So ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Miss Nicole Edmonds.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. As Tanya said, I'm Nicole Edmonds, and I am a new notes investor. I am a real estate investor. So I've been investing in real estate for some time, and I'm also a real estate agent here. I'm licensed in Maryland, and I operate in Greater Baltimore area. So I'm boots on the ground for any of you notes investors who are not in the area and need boots on the ground in Baltimore. I'm your girl. So I want to put that out there. But I thank you, first of all, Tanya, for giving me this space and for feeling like I had something I can contribute to this group. So I thank you for that. And thank you all for attending. And I hope that I'm able to add something beneficial. As Tanya mentioned, I am a new notes investor. And the conversation that Tanya and I had was that she would like me to present just to kind of help with other new notes investors to get over that feeling of the due diligence kind of being intimidating for new notes investors. So for sure, I am not the authority on due diligence. For sure, there are far more experienced people on this presentation when it comes to due diligence. This is just kind of a perspective from somebody who's new at it and what my process is, and hopefully that'll help somebody else who's new, and maybe even add something to somebody who's done it before. They might find something that, you know, that they can just add to their tool belt. So that's the perspective I'm coming from. Now, Tanya, I wasn't necessarily prepared to go from the how I scrub the tape. I really was.
Oh, that's fine.
I was thinking that I would just kind of go from, you know, what the due diligence process was that I did to get to the point of being willing or wanting or deciding whether or not to put in an offer. So I didn't go as far as the part that Smitty was talking about after you get the collateral file, because I didn't actually get the collateral file. So I wasn't going to go that far, but basically the process of what I did to do my due diligence to determine whether or not I was going to make an offer, and somewhat about how I determine my numbers. But I guess, so yes, I received a tape, a few tapes, but this particular tape, let me say this also. So the particular note that I put an offer in was a Maryland property. I didn't know, Tanya, if you wanted me specifically to deal with that one. The one that I was going to present on today wasn't the Maryland property. And the reason why is because, again, I felt that I was tasked with kind of just entreating new note investors. And because I am an investor in Maryland and an agent in Maryland, I felt like I have a little bit of a little bit of a leg up when it comes to doing due diligence on Maryland properties. I know exactly where to go. I know exactly what I'm looking for. But when I was looking at notes that were not in Maryland, I had to kind of start from the ground. So I figured I would talk about something where I actually had to start from the ground, where I was kind of like, okay, let me find what I need. Whereas when I was looking at the Maryland property, I knew where I needed to go to get what I needed. So that's the reason why I picked another one, but I can certainly answer questions about that one because that one was interesting. But I felt that this one was interesting too. So on that note, when I got the file, so it was a non-performing notes file, I have my criteria, and actually my criteria is kind of similar to Smitty. This isn't a criteria discussion, but everybody's criteria is going to be different. I have my, how much I want to invest in a note. I have, what I want the the value of the property value to be, and the areas that I would like to invest in or not invest in, just from the training that I've gotten. And I'm still, of course, refining that, and I'm sure it'll evolve over time what my criteria is. But the first thing I do when I present it with a tape is go through the properties, identify what's my criteria. So I may start with the Excel spreadsheet and narrow it down by state. I might narrow it down by unpaid principal balance. So I may narrow it down by what the interest rate, P and I, whatever it is that my criteria is that I'm looking for. I start there and kind of shrink the whole big tape down to what are the items, what are the properties that are on this tape that meet my criteria. So I started there. And then from there, I kind of narrow it down and some things bubble up to the top. So as a new investor, and so this is a point that I really wanted to make, as a new investor, I feel my primary objective is to make sure that I can get into a note and get my feet wet. Get into it, get my feet wet, learn the process, and walk through the process so that I can eventually grow my business. So I look for the low-hanging fruit. I don't think it's anything wrong with looking for the low-hanging fruit. And by the low-hanging fruit, I mean looking for properties that I feel like it's going to make it more accessible for me to do the due diligence, that is going to be easier for me to get through the due diligence process. Because if all other things are equal, if I've identified, okay, I have 10 potential, notes here, 10 properties here that could meet my criteria, which ones are going to make it a little bit easier for me because I am new at it. I'm not limiting myself per se, but it gives me a starting point. So that was the reason why, of course, the Maryland property bubbled up to the top, because I'm here in Maryland and I actually physically got in the car and drove to the property. I didn't need to identify boots on the ground because I am the boots on the ground. So that was low-hanging fruit for me. That's what I mean by low-hanging fruit. So
Nicole, could you tell us a little bit more about your criteria? Were you looking for performing, non-performing? What type of range were you looking for?
Okay. And also, if anybody else has a question, feel free to stop me. If I get talking too fast, let me know. Sometimes that's the Sagittarius in me that comes out. But yeah, so like I said, I had a tape of performing notes and non-performing notes. I was specifically looking for a non-performing first position. I was looking to invest around 50,000. I said Smitty's criteria is very similar to mine. I was looking to invest somewhere around 50,000 or less. Because I wanted to be able to get multiple notes and not have all my eggs in one basket. I wasn't necessarily starting off with multiple notes, but I didn't want to have all of my resources in one basket. Also, I wanted to make sure that the value in the property is at least 75,000. If I needed to get a hard money loan on it, if I'm going to rehab the property, I wanted to be able to meet the criteria that a lender might need. So that's one of the things. Of course, the states, I was looking at the states. I prefer to be in the states where I don't have to go through a long, hard process if I have to foreclose. So I prefer, like I said, I'm not necessarily limiting myself, but that just makes it a little more easier, more accessible for me as a new notes investor. So that was a part of my criteria. I'm trying to think of what else at the time. Like I said, of course I have my percentage, yield that I want to make off of it. That's a part of my criteria. The specific numbers, I mean, I have a range. I was kind of looking at the notes and determining what I felt like I would be comfortable with the combination of all of those things. What are they asking me for? What is the potential value in the property? How many years is left on the notes? All of those things, it kind of has a sliding scale, what I'm looking for, depending upon what all of those different factors are. Does that answer your question?
Yep, that's good.
Okay. So yeah, so that's my first, I actually probably start with the I think I started probably with the unpaid principal balance. Because if the unpaid principal balance on it is 300,000, I knew that was probably going to be outside of my price range. If the unpaid principal balance was 5,000, I may or may not want to look at that. Depends on, if I want to buy something that's that inexpensive. But it probably wouldn't have my $75,000, value criteria if it was that low. So I probably started with that, and then maybe my next thing was probably state. I then kind of narrowed it down by state. and took it from there. So then once I kind of got to, okay, here's a group of notes that meet my criteria, which ones do I now want to spend the energy and the time into doing the due diligence on? That's when I kind of went to, okay, what bubbles up to the top? What's the low hanging fruit for me? And of course, there was one Maryland property on the list. It met my criteria. It actually looked quite interesting to me. It was the area, it was in an area where I had family, where my family lives. So that was very good. So I was just like, okay, so that definitely bubbled right up to the top. Another one that bubbled up to the top was the one that I'm going to discuss today, which was in Texas, Spring, Texas. That one bubbled up to the top because of, like I said, low-hanging fruit. I've been to Spring, Texas. I've been there. I know what it's like there. And I also have a brother who lived in Spring, Texas for a while. He lives in Houston, just a couple of counties over. So that gave me access to boots on the ground. That gave me, I didn't have to do a whole lot of extensive research into what the demographics are like, whether or not it's a rural area. I already know because I've been there. I know what the county is like. I know about the area. I know it's, a suburb of Houston. So we all know Houston is big. And I know that Texas is a great place to invest from other investors. So that's why these kind of bubbled up to the top. Does that make sense? Does that, So the one that I wanted to talk about was the one that I did the due diligence on in Spring, Texas. I have a list here that I follow, like a checklist that I go through for my due diligence. I don't know, can you, I'm not sharing. Let me see. Can I share? Am I able to
You
share?
should have rights to share.
Okay, let me see. Now, always when I want to go and share, sometimes my system complains about low resources, so I'm hoping that this works. Bear with me.
It says you started sharing your screen, but we can't see it yet.
I see it. It popped up. Well, it's popped up for me.
There
You
you
guys
go.
see it?
There it is.
Okay. If I switch applications, can you still see? Can you see it now?
Yeah, we're seeing the due diligence presentation for 12/20.
All right. So you're seeing the Word document. You're not seeing my Excel spreadsheet.
No,
Correct.
just seeing the Word doc.
You might have to reshare.
Let me try sharing again because I want to be able to share more than one.
So when you go back up to share again, you might have to just go share screen and then choose
Okay.
another window.
Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, now you're seeing my Excel spreadsheet,
Yes.
and now you can see my Word document.
Yep.
Okay, good. Good. And
You're
can you
cooking
still
with
hear
gas.
me?
Yeah, you're cooking with gas.
Okay,
Definitely.
good. Okay, so here's a checklist, and I may have gotten this checklist from Tanya. I'm not 100% sure. I've added some notes in for this presentation, but I have a due diligence checklist, and this is basically what I walk through. And again, I know there's some experienced notes investors on here, so this is for us beginners. So I start with doing a checkout of the property on Google or Zillow. The next item on my list is to check the listings, look at pictures, the land, that kind of thing. Check out the area. Citydata.com is a place to check out the area, run the numbers. This is basically the checklist that I went through one thing by one thing. So I'll just start with the top. So the first thing I did was Google the address for the property. So this is the tape. I feel like this tape is probably already been filtered some, but this was the property. The property here is in Spring, Texas. It says that it's preferred for foreclosure, said that it was vacant, had a total, this is the legal balance here. This was the property address. You had the city, state, zip code. This tape gave you an owner's first and last name. It gave you a BPV, so the broker's price opinion. I'm not sure when that was done, who did it, whether or not it could be totally trusted, but at least it gave you some kind of idea. Had your UPB, had your note rate, interest, your payment, your P&I, so your principal and interest, escrow payments, and so forth. The next due date. And of course, all of these things are part of the due diligence process. Now I have to move you guys so that I can see. Okay. The maturity date, next due date. So when I saw this next due date, and these were notes from this year. So me seeing the next due date of 2018 indicated to me that it's been some years since there had been a payment made. So I kept that in mind as I'm starting to do my due diligence. So the first thing I did was take this address and do a Google search to see if I could see a picture, see if I could see the area. I tried to do some of this in advance just so that the presentation could move along. We'll see how well my computer plays along. Because right now I'm not even seeing that screen up anymore. Oh, here we go. Bear with me because I have to figure out how to navigate. Let me do Zillow. So oh, I had already zoomed out some to look at the area. Let me try to zoom back in on the street. So this is the address, pulled up the property. This was the picture that I saw, and I thought, looks pretty good. 2-car garage, single family home, looks pretty clean from the outside. Of course, I start then looking at the neighborhood, looking at the street, zooming out to see, if I see anything that looks concerning. Looked like a nice development from what I could tell. I took notice here that the street view picture for Google was taken in March 2022, which is fairly recently. Sometimes you'll see pictures and they'll be from years ago. So that gave me a little more confidence that this might actually still look like this. So that's one of the things that I look for when I'm looking on Google. And of course, I can zoom out and, get a better picture of the area and some of the other things that are happening in the area. I'm assuming everybody knows how to use Google, knows how to use Google search. And so I'm just giving you kind of my process, my steps. So I won't go through all of that, but that's what I did. Starting there. And so I said, okay, well, that's good. Then I usually go from here to either Redfin or Zillow. I'm kind of familiar with Redfin, so I like to start with Redfin. I feel like Zillow and Redfin have similar information. Zillow kind of drills down on some other information a little deeper. Redfin drills down a little deeper on other information. So I use them both. So I go to Redfin just to see if I can find out any more information about the property, if it's been listed recently, when was the last time it might have been listed, if I can find anything out about the square footage of the property, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, and of course I can pick up information like what I have brought up here, the county, which is really important. So I was able to tell that this property is in Montgomery County, which I used that then to go and look up taxes, and other information. So I picked that up from here. I got the year that it was built, picked that up from Zillow. These are just some of the key things that I picked up from Redfin and Zillow when I was looking at the property. Of course, both Redfin and Zillow are going to give you their estimation. So Redfin has an estimation of what they think that the property might be worth. Now, if you remember from the tape, it said the broker's price opinion was about $240,000. And mind you, this is probably about 2 months ago. But it's in a ballpark, it's kind of in the same neighborhood. So that made me feel good that, those numbers, were similar. Says that this property, the square footage of the property was 1,556 square feet, 1 story. Another thing that I picked up when I did this was that it had a legal description that said Fox Run. And I was seeing that this was a community, that this property was a part of a community, and it was the Fox Run community. So that gave me some more information. I could then look up Fox Run and find out what it's about, if there are other properties in Fox Run, something else that might be on the market right now in Fox Run, to give me a better idea of what the value of the property might be. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I picked up from here. When you go into Zillow, I think Zillow actually gives you a tax ID. I believe I have Zillow pulled up here too, but I'll look here and see if we here. This gives you some tax history. Again, I actually went to the county tax site to kind of try to verify some of these numbers, but you know, presumably this information is coming from the tax website, but I went and looked for myself as a part of my due diligence process. But I think those were kind of, this APN is actually the tax ID. So you can pick that up from there as well. I tend to do things the long way. So I see it here, but I ended up going to the actual tax website and finding out all of this information on my own. But those are just some of the things you can pick up and get off of Redfin and Zillow and sites like that to help with your due diligence process. From here, let's stay on this train of thought. So I went to Zillow, like I said, I got to move some things around on my screen so I can get back to the top of this. This is not Zillow. This is Zillow. I used Zillow, put the address in that, you know, of the property, and I used Zillow to find comps, to kind of verify some of the same information that I found on Redfin. But this is where I want to see where properties are that are in the area that could be for sale, currently for sale, or that have sold recently, so that I can get an idea of what the market is like right now in the area. So I don't want to bore you with all of those steps, but that's what I did. And I came up with this property here.
This is for an after rehab value?
Say that question again, Tanya.
This is for an after rehab value you're looking for?
Well, when I looked at this property, once I saw the pictures, I could tell that it was after rehab.
Okay.
So yeah, so I do that. So that's a good question. If I go, this particular one is after rehab, but if I go and I'll look at different properties that are in the area. Zillow does a good job of giving you a map. So you'll have a map of your actual property that you queried, and then it'll give you a map of houses around it, and they have different prices for it. Some of them are estimates, they're Zillow estimates. Some of them are actually what they're being listed for, if they're actual active properties, or they may have prices for properties that sold recently. So whether it's before or after rehab, I determine that by what the pictures look like. If I look at the pictures and I can see it's got granite countertops and fresh paint, I know that that's after rehab, if it's kind of falling down. So this was an after rehab value. As a real estate agent, let me say, this isn't my market. So another reason why this was a low-hanging fruit for me was because I had recently been in contact with some agents who do business in Texas, who do business in this demographic, in this area. So I know that I'm able to contact them and say, hey, can you tell me something about this property? Can you tell me about the area? If this property isn't rehab, to get that kind of idea of what a non-rehab value would be, or ARV would be, an ARV or before rehab value would be. So if I wanted to do a deeper dive into that, that's how I would go about it. So I'm gonna revisit that in a second. So I want this to be gone. I don't know if you guys can see this. Can I get rid of this? Because this is in my way. Okay. So I pulled up this one because there wasn't a whole lot. Well, there are properties that were for sale, but this one was the closest property in proximity to my subject property, the property that I'm actually looking up, that was for sale. And I was able to see that this property is actually in the Fox Run community, where the property for the Note is. So I thought that this was a good property. It also was built the same year as the property that I'm looking at. It also has a 2-car garage like the property that I'm looking at. So I felt like this was a good comp. So again, when you're doing your due diligence, that's kind of how I go about it. I'm looking, it's built in the same year, it's in the same development, it has similar features. So this was one of the properties that I pulled up, and that was the reason why. It was the closest in proximity, and I was able to kind of get an idea of what houses in that Fox Run community might go for, or at least what it's listed for right now. I would prefer to look at a property that's recently sold, because just because it's listed for this amount doesn't mean it's going to sell for that amount. But again, the purpose of all of this is for me to determine whether or not it's worth it for me to put an offer in on the note. Not so much for me to know specifically how much I'm going to list it for, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to list it, if I'm going to get it back performing. You know, I'm just getting general ideas, getting good numbers to make an informed decision. So I just want to put that out there. Again, the more experienced notes developers, most notes investors, you guys, know what the process is. But for us newbies, so I looked up this property. Again, I told you some of the reasons why I thought that this was a good one to look at. Being in the Fox One community, being of similar structure. This one does have an additional level. If you can see up here at the top, the property that I was looking at is one level. This one does have an additional level. It has a little bit more square footage. So I took that in account when I'm looking at my numbers. I would adjust this 253 somewhat based on that. But again, it's just giving me a good general. So this is the other reason why I look for something like this. If I need boots on the ground, I know that the agent that's listing this property is doing business in that area. So I would reach out to this agent and call them, because I know that they're already in the area. And I, in my experience doing due diligence on other projects, have found that on other notes, have found that agents who are already active in the area may be more willing to go out and take a look at a property for me, that's just a couple of blocks down, a couple of doors down, or a couple of blocks over from a property they have listed. If I really want them to can you go look at it? Can you tell me if it's still standing there? Can you give me a picture of it? If they're already doing business in that area. And if, like I've heard from Tanya and other people, I can tell them if I get this property, I have an opportunity, I may need an agent to help list this property. They're already doing business in that area, then they have the expertise, they have the experience, and they might be willing to pick up another property. So that gives them incentive to be willing to be boots on the ground for me. So that's another reason why I look for properties that are currently listed, that are nearby the property that I'm looking at. Does that make sense? Any questions on that so far? Am I going too fast, going too slow? Okay. So that's kind of the next step that I take. So this is, like I said, twofold. It's one, for me to get an idea of value. So I just picked this one address. This would be after rehab, but I did actually search other addresses to see what a more current value would be if it wasn't rehabbed. And again, the other purpose of this for me is to kind of get get contact information for agents who might be able to do boots on the ground work for me. But as I mentioned before, this is kind of low hanging fruit. So I have a brother that's just a couple of counties over. So instead of me contacting a real estate agent, I contacted my brother. I got on the phone and I'm like, look, I have this address. It's not too far from you. Would you be willing to go and take a look at this property for me? So let me tell you what else I did before I made that phone call. So the next thing I did, and this is probably my favorite part of the due diligence process, is I wanted to go and look at the documents, the real estate documents, the land records for this property, so I can get a little more information about it. Now, the way I did that was I just Googled on my checklist here. And again, I don't know, I may have gotten this from Tanya, but there's a website that I have listed here, netronline.com, that will give you, if you go in and you put the county and the state of the property that you're looking at, they will give you the websites of the tax website, where you can get land records and things like that. It will give you that on this website, but I just did a Google search. So again, I'm new at it. But this is for me to just kind of let you know, it's not all that intimidating. If you can do a Google search, you can get what it is that you need. And so that's all that I did. I just went and I literally Googled, I put that in my notes so that I can tell you exactly what I Googled. I Googled Montgomery County, Texas land records. That's what I Googled. And I knew it was Montgomery County because it showed up on Redfin that property was in Montgomery County. So I Googled Montgomery County records. Montgomery County, Texas land records, and it gave me the website. The website is www.mctx.org. So I went to that website, which I already should have pulled up here. Just trying to cut across the green a little bit. Right. So this is the website. After I Google, this is what the link that came up first, right at the top. And I clicked on it and it brought me to this page. And I started scrolling to this page, and pretty well at the top, it says official public records. Fees, it says click here to search county clerk records, log in as guest. So I don't need to have any kind of active account. I don't have to pay for anything. I can just click on it and get information. And that's what I did. Very simple. Like I said, anybody can do it. And that's the whole point of, me as a newbie doing this presentation, just to kind of let you know anybody can do it. So when you click on that link, it brought me up to a search engine. I've already done the search. I'm bringing you showing you documents right now, but it brought me to a search engine. I guess I could go through the search. It doesn't take long. I clicked here. Clicked on log in as guest as I was instructed. It gives a disclaimer about how, to use the information. It can't be held liable about the information. I accepted that disclaimer. And it brings me to a search engine. So over here, I clicked on search public records. And basically, once it returns, it's going to ask you, how you want to search. And I searched on the name, which I pulled from off of the tape. If you recall, this was the first and last name of the owner. So I filled in that information. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Like I said, I already did the search. So this is inside the search engine. I'm in this engine at this point. I pulled up some documents. So I'm gonna go back one so that you can kind of see the list of documents that came up. Go back to results. So once I put in Leonora Valaro, this is a whole list of documents, public records that came up under her name. And I can see subdivision Fox Run. And I think some of these may even show the address of the property, but certainly once you click on them and open up, it shows you the address of the property. But once I saw a subdivision Fox Run, I knew I was pretty much looking at the property, or these documents pertain to the property that I'm looking at. So there are a whole list of properties here. Whole list of documents here. What I probably did was sort them by date. So you'll see the different column headings up here. I clicked on recorded, and when I click on recorded, it says sort on recorded date. And I just sorted them by date so that the most recent records would float up to the top. And kind of started working my way backwards from there. Just to see what kind of records are out here about this property. What can I find out about this property? So that's what I did. So as you can see, let me move this again. There are a bunch of records, bunch of transactions that took place on the 20th of October, 2022. Now, when I got this, the notes, the tape, it was not too long after this. It was probably late October, early November when I got the tape, so I could see that there were some things that had transpired. I see something going on here with RCG Notes Partners. Some things had transpired right before the notes were released on tape. So I took some time and looked at that as well. But I want to point out a couple of, because we'll be here all night. So I just want to point out a couple of things that I found very interesting. I saw this death certificate. That was very interesting to me. So I opened that up, and I just opened it quickly, but if you didn't notice, the death certificate is from 10/17/2018. But it's loading. Hope that's not going to take too long. So anyway, I saw the death certificate that looked interesting to me. I saw that the date on the death certificate was from October 17th, 2018. And if you recall from the tape, I don't know why that's taking so long, but my internet resources are probably moving slow. But if you recall from the tape, it has the next due date for this being September 2018. And so I was able to, ascertain pretty quickly that there have been no mortgage payments made on this property because the owner is dead. She hasn't made, and so that gave me a different perspective than now on making an offer on this note, because I know that I'm dealing with an owner who is deceased. So, that's going to come into play with whether or not I can get this reperforming again, if I'm going to foreclose, all of those things. That's information that I needed to know. So that was the purpose for going to some place, going out here to look at public records. I don't know why this is taking so long. Let me refresh and see if I can get it to return some results for me. It took me all the way back out. Let me see if I can get through this really quickly, go back to it, because I want to show you some other things that I saw. Bear with me, because my system is starting to yell at me because I have too many things going on. I hope I spelled that right. Nope, I didn't spell it right. Leonora Valaro. Okay, let's try that again. Get it right this time. Am I still spelling it wrong? Last name first, then first name. So that's what happened with that. Again, like I said, all of these are all in different date formats. I think it's sorted by the record type, the type of record it is, but I sorted it by date. So I sorted the ascending first. I'm gonna do a descending. Come on, you can do it. Okay, so we saw that there was a death certificate from 2018. And then I seen that there were a number of assignments. All of these assignments that took place in 2020. So that seemed interesting to me. I'm not going to try to click on the death date again because it didn't come up, but I'm going to see if I can get this to come up. One of these assignments. And this may just be my resources, maybe. Okay. So here's one. So I clicked on the assignment and I start reading through what's going on here. And it says, I, Christopher Valaro, am the son of Leonora Valaro, deceased. It says, after being duly sworn, I stated that my mother died on October 14th, 2018. To date, no probate or administration has been commenced on my mother's estate to the best of my knowledge. I hereby specifically assign any interest, rights, title, ownership, or claim, whether legal or equitable, that I may have of my surviving mother as an heir of my mother in the real estate property known as the property that I am looking up. So I'm seeing that this is one of her heirs. They are relinquishing their rights to the property. But I also noticed that they've said that to date, no probate or administration has been commenced on the estate to his knowledge. If we go back, you'll see there are 4 of these. I believe there are 4 of these. So she's got at least 4 descendants. And they've all, done this affidavit. So that gives me a little more information, a little more insight. So at this point, my mind is going, okay, the tape tells me that there's a foreclosure process that started, but has the probate process been done? And what is Texas's probate process? Have all the heirs been identified? I don't know that. So all of these things inform me of whether or not I want to even proceed or, be bothered with this note. So that's the purpose, of going to the public records, why I did it, how this informs my due diligence process. So there were other things I was able to find out. I don't want to take up too much time on this, but this is what I do when I'm doing due diligence. I like to go to the public records, see what I can find out. Let me see if there was anything else that I wanted to show or mention about this.
Hey, Nicole, can you
Sure.
can you go back and pull up this doc here?
Pull back up the assignment from the heir.
Yeah, the one that's in the chat.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Let me find the chat. It's hard for me to navigate
And do both, yeah.
all the different things I'm doing. Okay. Pull up this doc. Okay. From on this page.
Yeah, it might be on this page, but I was doing some additional search.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you know that's 2022, so it's probably up at the top. 1, 2, 1,
it looks
4.
like it was really recent, 73.
Yeah, why don't I see that? I see 1, 4, 1, 2.
You may have to go back out.
Yeah, I'm back in criteria. I'm back to criteria.
But when you go to your search, yeah, and then this is document number to the left,
Okay.
and then paste that one in there.
Okay. So this is good. This is a document that is recent as of 12/19, so as of 3 days ago. So this document didn't even exist when I was doing my due diligence on this particular note. So this is something that's just now taking place. But
Yeah, this is and I'm not trying to steal your thunder or anything, but
this is good.
it's good. It's always good to go back and look again, before you purchase, because you just never know. Because if you look at this assignment and look at all the errors that are on this assignment, appointment of trustees.
Right. And to Mitty's point, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I was just saying that's just something to pull up and look at.
Yeah, exactly. Now this one, like I said, when I did my due diligence, it was in October, early November. This did not exist, but to his point, I decided not to pursue this particular note because I knew that, okay, if there have been 4 heirs has been identified, I don't know if all of them have been identified. If they're all saying the probate process hasn't even taken place to their knowledge, then I don't know how, if I put my money into this, I don't know how long it's going to be tied up. I don't know, how that's going to play out. And that doesn't mean that I couldn't have still pursued it, but it just adds additional elements that I would have to work through. And for me as a new notes investor, or even if I was more seasoned, it just was not something. I had other options. I decided to go down a different path, but I wouldn't have known that was even a factor had I not done the due diligence. So that's the whole point in all of this, to say that. And I thank you, Smitty, for doing that extra legwork and pulling up that document. But that's the whole point in doing something like this. So yeah, so once I did that though, because I still was just kind of curious about it, and I wanted to continue the exercise because I'm new and I needed it. But once I did that, I felt pretty confident that the property was going to be empty. So I also did the tax. I did the tax. So let's talk about the taxes as well. Pull that up because I'm like, okay, she's been dead for 4 years now at this point. So I'm pretty sure we got some outstanding property taxes. And I wanted to know if the property had gone to tax sale. That's another thing that I needed to find out. So again, the way I did it, you know, my notes here will show you. You can go to NETR online. I'm not sure how you say that, Netter online maybe. But I just Google searched it. I searched Montgomery County property taxes. The same way I Google searched Montgomery County taxes land record. It actually sent me to the same website, but to a different page on that website. So this is where it sent me to. I don't know if it's going to let me go quickly to it. And I mean, I've done several different states, not a lot, but I found that a lot of this is very easily accessible. You know, it's not hard to get to the property records. You just need to know to look for them. You just need to know to Google property or land records. You just need to know to Google property taxes. If you do that, most of the time it's not hard to find it. So it brought me to this page, and this took me straight to the tax office. It's still on the mctx.org, but it just took me straight to the tax office page. Right at the top, I have a contact phone number, which I ended up using that phone number to confirm the information that I found on this page. So that was another part of my due diligence process, but I got it right here. It only took a couple of seconds to Google it and get that up. Over here to the side, let's see which one did I click on? Did I click on property tax information? No, I clicked on tax statement and online payment. And some of this is trial and error. I might have clicked on a couple of links before I got to the right one, but tax statement and online payment, clicked on that. And I'm pretty sure the only thing I did at this point was either put in the owner's name, right? Put in the owner's name, or it might have asked me for the address, but in this particular case, it asked me for the owner's name, which last name and then first name. So let's see if I can do this again. I think it's Leonaro. I think that's Leonora. It tells me that there's one match for that name. If I come down here, it gives me the name and it gives me the address of the property that I'm looking at. So I know that this is the property in question. I click on the account number. And it gives me some information. The key thing that I'm looking at here is total amount due $8,238.11. So I know that that's quite a bit of taxes that haven't been paid, which makes sense because the woman hasn't been alive for a while. So with that amount of taxes outstanding, my next question was, of course, now this is going to factor in, if I was going to proceed to put an offer in, I'm going to factor in the fact that those taxes are going to have to be paid. But before I even go that far, has this been in a tax sale? You know, is it still even available? So that's something I didn't spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. I called the office. I just called the office. You can, I guess, dig to see, you know, I probably did a little bit of it, to see if I can find out, you know, tax sales for Montgomery County or whatever. But essentially at the end of it all, I just called that number that was at the top of the page and spoke to somebody. I said, you know, I'm interested in finding out what the outstanding balance is for this address. and what the instructions would be to pay off any outstanding balance. That's what I called and said. And when I spoke to the person, they let me know what the balance was, which was what I was seeing here. And they could have just been reading the same information that I'm reading. I don't know. But they gave me the same number, and I said, okay, that's quite a large outstanding balance. Do you know if this property has gone to tax sale? And the person I spoke with said, no, as far as I can tell, it's still, active account. It hasn't gone to tax sale. And I just, took that information based on what she provided. Any questions? Make sense? Anything anybody want to add? I see something in chat. Thank you, Smitty. It was nice meeting you too.
Yes.
Okay. You have to run?
Yeah, I gotta get out of here. I got an appointment with the wife to watch a Christmas movie.
Well, we appreciate your input, and definitely thank you for speaking up. And hopefully, if you have that information for that contact, you have a few of us who are interested.
Yeah, I stuck it in the chat there.
Okay.
Great
Awesome.
stop is Christopher Jordan.
Oh yeah.
And
Cool.
then my
Thanks so much,
contacts in
Smitty.
there. Yeah, you guys have a good one.
You too. Enjoy the
Thank you.
movie.
too.
I'll talk with you soon.
Have fun and Merry Christmas to you.
All right, same to you guys.
Enjoy that movie.
It's a
And yeah, I'm
long
wrapping up as well.
story.
Nah, you gotta take care of the wife, dude. You're doing well.
That's it.
Gotta take care of the
Good.
wife.
Oh, good
Yeah.
job.
All right, guys, take it easy.
You too.
All right.
I'm pretty much right, but I didn't do too much more on this. What I will say is that once I'd done the due diligence, up to this point, I figured that the property was vacant. I also looked up, I could see, I'm not going to try to pull it up, but I was also able to see from public records where there were liens on the property by the Fox One Property Management. So I know that, so I was able to, ascertain that it is in a community where there are, what am I trying to say?
HOA.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Where it's in a property where they have HOA fees and the fees were outstanding, which would make sense as well. But that also kind of gave me an idea that there is a management company that's managing the property, and that, it's probably in an area where, it may not be a bad area to invest in. So that was something that, because I'm like, it's a whole development, there's some property management that's going on there. So that also informed my decision. And I got that information because I looked at the public records. So once I did all of that, basically the last step I took for this particular one was I called my boots on the ground and I basically said, hey, I want you to go look at this property for me. I'm pretty sure it's empty because, when we're dealing with notes, sometimes you have the borrowers or the, residents that are still living in the property. You can't just go and, up on their property and do what you want to do. But I figured I was pretty confident that this one was empty. But I talked to my brother. I said, hey, can you look at this property for me when you have a chance? I did caution them. I'm like, make sure, you're careful when you approach the property. But I'm pretty sure that it's empty. And can you just let me know if the property is still standing there? Can you let me know what the area looks like? I asked him if he knew anything about, Fox Run, the community, anything like that. And he actually was telling me that they are building a new highway and that around that community that's going to give you quick access to other areas of Houston. And it was like they're putting infrastructure and money into that area. So he was like, I think this will be a good area to invest in. And he was talking about, how the community looks, the community looks good. And so all of that was very encouraging. Like I said, I did not ultimately put an offer in on this project because there was another one that I was more interested in here in Maryland, but I did get him to send me some pictures. So I'll show you those real quick, and I'm pretty much done if you don't have any questions, but I'll show you some of the pictures that he sent me. That was a part of my due diligence process for me to see what it was that I was potentially putting offer in on. Let me see if I can pull it up.
While you're looking, I have a question. What made you decide to do a non-performing?
So for the goals that I have right now, so I would like this to be my business. I would like Notes Investing to be my business ultimately, not just to build, get a couple of notes. I want to build it as my business. Right now, I feel that I need to turn my turn over my money as quickly as I can. And I just felt that there are more opportunities for me as far as growing my money, dealing with a non-performing note, either getting it back performing, creating cash flow, and then selling it, or being able to foreclose if I need to foreclose and reinvest, invest the money and then flip it. I just felt like that there were opportunities for me to be able to kind of turn my money over a little quickly, as opposed to buying, holding a performing note. To my mind, and again, I'm a new notes investor, but to my mind, getting something that's performing is creating cash flow, but it's not turning my money over as quickly as I believe I would be able to with a non-performing note. So that's why I'm focused more on non-performing notes right now.
Okay, thank you. I'm also new, so this helps me as well.
You're very welcome. Why can't I find? I'm sorry. I'm trying to navigate. I pulled this up so that I would make this, so this would be quick. Here we go. There we go. So this out of the way. Come on. You can do it. There we go. So this was the first picture that my brother sent me, my boots on the ground. So he sent me this picture and I thought, great. It looks like what it looks like on Google. So the house is still standing there. It looks fairly clean. And I'm like, okay, this is great. So that was a current picture that he sent me. And then he sent me this one. So this is a picture inside inside a window. So he went around back and he went and took a picture inside the window to show what the inside of the property looks like. So I was like, okay, all righty. So that gave me a glimpse on the inside. And then he sent me this one, which is the back of the property. So I got, an idea now. Okay, if I do, I'm dealing with someone who's deceased, I may have to go through probate. I'm not sure, the foreclosure is not gonna, be the same as if somebody was alive. So by the time I go through all of this, this is what I have to deal with. I'm going to have to deal with, fixing it up. And this doesn't necessarily intimidate me because I've been in fix and flip. That's how I started in real estate. So I've seen this in a whole lot worse. I've dealt with this in a whole lot worse, but it informs my decision. And that's the whole point. It informs my decision. So I was able to actually get some pictures of the property to kind of make me know, do you want to deal with this? Do you not want to deal with this? I think I had one more image. Let me see. I want you to do that. Just open the picture up. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Yeah, this was just another shot. So this is the value of, getting boots on the ground, getting some eyes to show what the property looks. So from the front, it's like, okay, everything looks great. Then you go around the back and it's like, okay. And the fact that he was able to snap that picture on the inside for me to kind of see what the inside is looking like also. So I just used all of these bits and pieces of information to inform my decision about whether or not to put an offer in on this particular note. And if I were to put an offer in on it, it will also inform how much I might be willing to invest. So it's getting late. We got like about 15 more minutes, I think, but that's, as a newbie, that's how I did my due diligence. And I hope that helps somebody, just if nothing else, to let you know, being new, that you don't need any special skills or resources, just a couple of good Google searches and you can get a really good, amount of information about the property that you're looking at.
Nicole,
Tanya,
tell us, how long did it take you to do all of that due diligence?
I'm sorry, say it again.
How long did it take you to do all of that due diligence?
I mean, I essentially just did it with you guys. So it probably took me about an hour and a half, maybe, for me to, find the websites and make sure I was clicking on the right thing. And, I had to wait on my brother to have an opportunity to get there. I think I asked him to go one day and he went the next day, maybe. Okay. So it didn't take long. And like I said, if I didn't have, I chose Spring, Texas because it was boots on the ground,
Mhm.
for me already. And also I didn't have to spend a lot of time. Like I also could have gone to, and I did want to mention this because this is a part of my due diligence checklist, going out to city data to find out, what the population is like, if it's a rural area, whether or not there, banks and businesses there. I know that already about Spring. I know that it's only 11 miles outside of Houston and everything's in Houston. So I didn't, had to spend a lot of time here, but I could have if I needed to.
Okay.
But that is part of my checklist. I know that they're big banks. I know that they're businesses. I already know that. So that might have extended it a little bit more, maybe another, 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour, to get that information. But if I didn't have, somebody who could go, like I said, I would have contacted some of the agents who have properties listed in the area. I probably would have contacted 2 or 3 because one might say they're going to do it and don't actually do it, or one might not get to it. So that would have extended it a little bit longer as well. But like I said, I don't think it's anything wrong, especially as a newer investor, a newer notes investor. Take the low-hanging fruit. If it can make your process a little more streamlined, a little more easy, do that. If all else is equal and you have the option of a couple of different notes, do the one that's going to make your due diligence more easy and more effective.
I agree. This was excellent, Nicole, and you did a wonderful, wonderful job. And I just wanted everyone to see your process, your thought process. What was I going for? What was I looking at? This is why I chose not to do it. And notice that she did all of the due diligence and then said, I don't want the headache, and that's the purpose of doing the thorough due diligence and going to the land records. That was outstanding because then you saw a whole nother level of what was happening. And really that's where you kind of get caught up in stuff too. It's great information, but then you start sifting through even more and more and you get caught up in it.
For you.
Yeah. And just like I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this woman died in 2018. No one started the probate process. All of those heirs, nobody wants the house or living in the house. Who was this woman and what is going on with that family? And that's where my mind starts to go. So I'm just like, amazing. And it was really solid, good due diligence just to come up with what you didn't want. But then you also did the same thing for another one in which you did put in an offer. So well done. And thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I appreciate it. And like I said, I hope it was at least a piece of information that will be helpful to somebody. Thank you for giving me the time and space.
Indeed. Thank you. Does anyone have questions?
This is Christian. No, just being a newer note investor myself, really just kind of going through the training, I thought that what you did and what you presented just kind of brought to life what I've been studying. So Nicole, great job and very thorough. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Christian. I appreciate those encouraging words. And just, I hope that the newer investors, you realize it's not an intimidating process. And it's actually quite interesting. Like Tanya said, if it took me more than an hour and a half, it's because I got lost in all of those documents and, curious about stuff. And I wonder what happened here. And I wonder and I saw that there was a name change at one point. And I'm like, okay, she got divorced. And, it's almost like, reading a drama.
It is. You're learning of someone's story.
So,
and you get caught up in it.
People are more inclined than others. This is something I'm inclined to do. I'm inclined to dig like this, but I just want everybody to feel empowered to do it.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions? No other questions? You just did an
Well,
amazing.
Nicole, here's a follow-on question. So you mentioned that you do have investor experience. While this property was in a different state, do you still think that you drew upon your experience to kind of help you, through the due diligence process?
Yes, I definitely, especially with regards to going to look at the land records. Like I don't know that I've heard, because I don't even know that that's on my checklist. I don't know that I hear a lot about doing that specific activity as a part of your due diligence, but that I'm going to always do that because of my experience as an investor. And I think that, like I said, it just shines a whole new light on things. The property that I did actually end up putting an offer on, when I went to the land records, I was able to see when the original mortgage note was generated. And I'll make this comment because this was very important to my process. I was able to see when the original note was generated, the original mortgage was generated. I was able to see who was on the original mortgage. And in that particular situation, when the loan was created, there was two. There was a signer and a co-signer. One of the signers had passed away. Another one, she had passed away, but the co-signer was still alive. I was able to see that he had gone through the process of getting the property himself in his name. So I knew that I was dealing with the right person. But I could see all of that because of the land records. And I went and I saw that. And then I was able to see that the original mortgage loan was the exact same dollars and cents as the unpaid principal balance on the tape. And the original mortgage loan had been generated 20 years prior. So bells and whistles goes off in my head. And I'm like, so for 20 years, nothing's been paid on this mortgage because it's the exact same amount. And so I was able to follow it. Actually, in both of these cases, I sent follow-up questions to the note, the tape, the person who sent out the note, right? The seller. And I asked, I'm like, why, I'm seeing that this balance is the same as it was 20 years ago. And he came back and said, oh, that the unpaid principal wasn't correct. And he sent me a different number for the unpaid principal. So if I'm making an offer based on the unpaid principal, I would have been making it on a number that was $20,000 higher than what the unpaid principal really was. But I knew that something was not jiving because I had done a due diligence. I had looked at the actual documents. And so I said that question back and was able to get an actual real unpaid principal number. For this one, my question, the one that I presented today, my question back to the seller was, do we know if all of the heirs have been identified? Has the probate process started? What was another thing that I asked about this one? There's a huge discrepancy between the legal balance, which is $175,000, and the unpaid principal, which was $55,000. That's $120,000 difference. What's reflected in the difference in that number? I know that there are outstanding taxes of $8,500. I know that there are some outstanding HOA fees. What else is reflected in that? So to answer your question, yes, being an investor did inform, some of this. But it's not anything that I did that anybody else couldn't do,
And let me also add that, yes, on the front end is you can find that out, but you also would have found it out on the back end. So say you did put the offer in on the wrong unpaid principal balance. Once you got the collateral file, it would have showed you that it was wrong. But what you did was excellent because now it showed you that you didn't even have to put in the offer altogether, but you do look beyond that. And that's kind of why I wanted you to present that it's more than just the steps from training at 1, 2, 3, 4, but sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper. And it's kind of like you can show that in a training, but it's always a different situation with different notes, right? So you can have 50 different notes with 50 different things, and one could just be clean cut. And you're just like, oh, everything's perfect, it's wonderful, and let me put an offer in. And then you can have something that has a whole lot of red tape stuck to it. And it's a sticky, hairy note. And you can, and I've done that too. I don't always go to the land records, but I'll Google the person's name and I'll say, and look up the obituary. And I'll read the obituary and see the stuff that's happened and who's the heirs, and then I'll move on to other things. But it's just those little things that you have to dig deeper into in order to find out about it. And that's kind of why I wanted you to present, because I didn't want people to think it's not just ABC and then you're done and there's nothing else, because these notes have hair on them and there's always something more that you have to dig down into. Anybody else have a question? I think Jessica just had to leave.
Yeah, I saw Jessica had to leave.
Anybody else have a question? Outstanding job, Nicole. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank you again for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for doing it. So just a reminder, you all, we meet every Thursday. I'm going to have this up online. Give me until the weekend, and I'll probably have this presentation up so that you can go back and view it.
Not every
it's-
Thursday, right? Is it every fourth?
Oh, no, I'm
Thursday?
sorry. Every fourth Thursday of every month is when we meet online at 6:30, and you'll be getting some information from me. And then every second Tuesday, we meet in person. So I'll send out information, and I'll email you all, put you on my list. If you could drop your emails in the chat if I don't have them already, and I will be sure to add you to the list, and we can get that information out to you. And if there's nothing else, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. Happy holiday. Michelle, you have something?
Yes, I wanted to know, do you offer classes for newbies? Like, I'm a complete beginner. I know nothing about this. This was all new information to me, very interesting, very confusing. But I wanted to know, do you have classes or anything?
Yes, I actually offer a training course. You could give me a call. It's on my website at pearharbor.com for more information, but give me a call and we can talk. I'll drop my information in the chat also. But yeah, a lot of people here are new.
And I
just getting into it.
Tanya's course, so I can vouch that it's a very, very good one.
Okay, great.
I did too, and it was excellent.
Excellent.
Yeah, same
Thank
here.
you all. And we always try to continue on. So that's what I have these meetings for things like this, so that you're not getting everything. Like Smitty was saying, you don't get everything in the training because it's so much. Right. And so that's why I said you have to continue on and continue the education. I'm still learning stuff myself. And that's why I attend all of these other meetups and events. And when people have these webinars, I'm on them because there's always something new and it's always changing. And it's something that I can always bring back and help somebody else with. So yes, give me a call or we can chat later, even after the holidays, first of the year. And the information is on my website. But yes, we do offer a training.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll see you all in 2023. Have a safe, peaceful, relaxing, enjoyable holiday. See you all next month.